Welcome to another week of The Actor's Vow. This is your host, Denise Borraz Trepat, and I'm so excited to have you another week here. Honestly, this is getting more exciting every single week. Like at the beginning, I started doing this and I was like, oh shit, the mic is on. Like I have to talk, I have to say something. Like it was kind of stressful. I mean, it's fun, but there's pressure. But at this point, I'm just here like sitting, I'm like, okay, just let me take a hit out of my joint, just chill with my friends from the podcast. So thank you for that, guys. You are my friends that I don't know some of you, and yeah, thank you for being there. So today's episode is the continuation of part 1 of last week's episode, which is from Spain to New York, where I explained where I went on a whole quest to go from a little town in Spain to New York City and just, live my dream and now be in LA. We didn't get to that in the last episode, but we got to how I did the auditions in New York and how that whole process was. And I realized I kind of made it sound like it was a few steps, but no. That was like 2 years of non-stop hard work, but seemed impossible. Today in this episode, I'm going to explain what happens once I finish the auditions and I go back to Spain and then I wait and see if I got accepted to even one place. That's what this episode is about. But before we get to that, I want to introduce the Sunday spotlight of this week, and that is Meredith Julia Muirhead. She is a very young actress who has just been accepted to Hofstra University acting program. So congratulations, Meredith. That's amazing. Actually, you're going to hear in this episode how Hofstra holds a very special place in my heart. And she is really awesome. I love interviewing and hearing from really young artists who are just starting out. They have other points of views and other ways of seeing things, sometimes even more passionate than people who have been in the business for a longer time, because their point of view comes just from pure passion. So I'm very excited for you to hear Meredith's interview. And if you want to find her before this Sunday, her Instagram handle is meredithjulia21. And that is at MEREDITHJULIA21. So, to start the episode this week. Last week we left it at I audition, I go back to New York, to my boring life, to my mundane nothing happens in this town ever life. If you can imagine a boring place, a place where there's nothing ever, that is where I grew up. So I go back there. And life goes on, really. It's like nothing has changed. That week in New York, those 2 weeks in New York of auditions were like dreams that just remained as that. I was really proud of them and the fact that I had done that. But, going back to the same that you grew up doing just makes you feel like that just some unattainable thing that you got to live for 2 weeks. So then I did a play with my theater company in my city or town. It also happened that when we did a play, we usually would also go do it in a retirement home for, elder people who wanted to see theater. So one of those times I was doing this play and we went to do it for the elder people, and then I was on stage, and then I had like 30 minutes before I had to be on stage again. And of course, what do you do when you have 30 minutes to chill? You go to the green room. Now, mind you, the green room in the retirement home was a really, really small old room with an old untuned piano and an old greasy couch. And, all the actresses got to change there. So very glamorous for sure. So I went to the green room and I was alone, and I picked my phone because of course that's what you do when you are not on stage and you have so much time to spare. I go on my phone and I have an email notification, and I opened it and it says Hofstra University. And I open it and it says, congratulations. And I'm like, honestly, at that point, my heart just stopped. And I was like, congratulations, what? So I kept reading, congratulations, you have been accepted to our program. Not only that, you got a scholarship. And when I read the amount the scholarship was for and everything, I knew what that meant. One, one school that was the first school that had accepted me, and not only had accepted me, but with a scholarship, which meant that even if no other school would accept me, I was going to New York. So I just started crying. This is the first time in my whole life I recall to ever crying of happiness, ever. That the tears could not stop coming from my eyes. I could not breathe, and I was like, oh damn it, I have to be on stage in 10 minutes, but it didn't matter. The whole world stopped in that moment. I knew my whole life had changed in that small little dirty green room of that retirement home. And I'll never forget that moment. It was so beautiful. And after that performance, I went running to my parents that were working and then were at home, and I told them, and they couldn't believe it. They could, but they couldn't, I really think they expected me. They wanted me to get it, but they weren't sure I would get it, the same as me. So that was a life-changing moment to know that happened. And the craziest part, after that day, the next day, another acceptance letter arrived, and another, and another, and another. And I was so overwhelmed. The truth is that I applied to 20 schools and 19 accepted me with scholarships. Some of them weren't enough to actually go. For example, I remember I got accepted to the New York Conservatory of Dramatic Arts, and the scholarship wasn't enough for me to be able to attend. And that was one of my choices, but I wasn't able to go to that school because of the scholarship. But the fact that so many accepted me was just such a dream. It was very incredible. It was something that was impossible, and I still don't know to this day how, but I did it, and I just guess it was meant to happen. So once I got accepted to all those schools, I had to make a choice, and the choice was between Hofstra University and Adelphi University in the end. There were many other schools, but I also liked the idea of something small and something that was near to the city but not in the city, because again, I had never left my small town, and I love New York, but it was also a very big step. So I finally decided on Adelphi University, which is where I ended up going, and I don't regret that choice at all. It was an amazing place. I have no doubt that other places that accepted me were incredible, and I would have been really happy there, but I know I was meant to go to Adelphi University. The people that I met there and everything, I wouldn't have had it any other way. But then I got accepted, and that was, February, March. That's when I found out. And then I had to just prepare everything for leaving. And that was crazy, I was graduating high school, and I knew everybody in my town would stay and just either start working. Some of them go to university, but just stay. And I was going on a big adventure on my own to the other side of the world. My parents and I prepared everything, and we booked tickets because my parents, of course, wanted to bring me to New York City and make sure I was installed and everything was fine. So in August, the three of us flew to New York City with all my things, and it was so hard to pack a whole life in a little suitcase to move across the world. And to this day, I still have so many of my belongings in Spain, and I don't know when I'm gonna be able to bring them here, but it's just such a interesting concept that, you never consider. I know I'm going off topic of what happened and the story, but I just wanted you to think of a moment for that. I grew up in my town, and I never moved from there until I was 17, and the concept, for example, of immigrants, you have people in your class. Maybe I had a couple of people that were immigrants, and they were always different people, and then when it happens to you, and when you're the one who moves, and you realize what it is to just not only leave your family and your town, but leave your culture and leave everything and start in a new place. If you haven't experienced that, maybe you will someday, maybe you won't, but I just encourage you to think about it for a moment, what that must be like to leave your life behind. Even if it's for something exciting and amazing, it's always a hard moment. And I arrived to New York with my parents, and we went to Adelphi University and they helped me get installed. I got a roommate and it was all so exciting and also American. Everything was exactly like in the movies. There was the football place, lacrosse, and the dorms, and everything was just like literally a movie. And I remember I got installed the weekend before we started classes, and let's say we started classes on Monday. And my parents stayed until that Monday. Their plane was leaving the day my classes started. So that morning, that night before the classes started, I still slept with my parents at the hotel. It was the last night I would see my parents in, I really didn't know when. I was hoping Christmas, but it's not like going away to a school an hour away. It's not like going away to a school in the same country. It's a school across a whole ocean. So I slept with them, and then they went with me to the train, the LIRR. Just again, shout out to the Long Island Railroad train. And they left me there. And I remember the moment that we hugged, we said goodbye, and they stepped out of the train and they stood on that platform. And I remember the doors of the train closing, and I could still see them through the windows. And then the train started moving, and just looked at them and waved, and they waved, and I knew our hearts were so broken, and I knew my life was starting at that moment. And I cried and I cried, and funny enough, my first classes was at 9 a.m. and it was the 8 a.m. train, so had to go to class and pretend that wasn't there and pretend that everything was fine and just do the class. And don't get me wrong, I was living my dream. So, I'm just saying, sometimes even if you are living your dream, that doesn't mean there can't be other things that could be breaking your heart or things that could be going wrong in your life, And it's another concept that I really believe in. Not just because you're living your dream or someone seems to have everything, doesn't mean that everything is fine or that they are truly happy. And again, I was really happy at that moment, but for sure the first month was very, very, very hard to live on my own and to get used to that and the American culture and everything in between. Your whole life changes. So from there, I guess the rest is history. I mean, I moved from my town to New York City, and I studied there for 4 years. And I guess another day I'll talk about how I made it to LA, because that's another story. I always said I would never do film and TV or commercials, and I am like the theater kid. But yeah, I graduated, and a few weeks after, I moved to LA. So stay tuned to hear why and if I regret that decision. So that's basically the story. If I'm gonna leave you with something, it's just the idea that anything is possible, especially if you are ignorant enough to be brave. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying that sometimes not knowing things gives us that strength that we didn't know we had. And sometimes even youth, just being so young and naive that makes us do these crazy things that, looking back now, a more mature me, I don't know if she would have done that. I want to leave you with that everything is possible, like really is. But everything that you might dream of also comes with a lot of hard work. I would have never in my whole life, in 1,000 years, or anybody around me growing up would have believed you if they had said what ends up happening to me, that I studied in New York, that I'm now in LA, a professional actress. No one would have believed it, especially me. Now, that didn't happen, again, like I said at the beginning, with a couple steps and a few auditions and a few bad moments. That happened after 2 full years of non-stop working. And when I say non-stop working, is I've never worked that hard in my whole life. The last 2 years of high school, I did not hang out with anybody at all. As sad as it sounds, I know those are like amazing years to hang out with your friends, but I had to give that up to study English, to study the SAT, to study the TOEFL, which is the English proficiency that they need in the US, to apply, to write all the essays in a language that wasn't mine, to learn all the monologues, to make all the research, to prepare so many things that you can't even imagine are a part of this whole process. And that's it. I mean, yes, the good thing is that dreams do come true, and the dream might be so big that it doesn't fit in your head, that when you imagine, you can't imagine you living that dream. But I promise you, you just have to imagine it. You just have to imagine it like it's real and put in the work always. That's the most important part. You can dream all you want, but if you don't put in the work, it won't happen. But if you dream it and you put in the work from someone who went from a small town in Spain, from nothing to this, I can assure you, dreams do come true. But it will be really hard. I can't lie to you. It will be really hard. You'll have to give up a lot of things. You will have to say no to a lot of things. You will have to say yes to many others. You will have to change yourself. You will have to keep learning. You will have to never give up. You will have to go through a lot of it alone. You will have to learn to be alone and to love to be alone. You will have to learn to adapt and to better yourself. You will have to learn to work through being afraid. You will have to learn to hide that fear. You will have to learn to fight through the fear. You will have to learn to be yourself. And you will have to learn that to be yourself is the best thing you could ever do. And you will have to learn that if you truly believe it, you can do it. But this dream you're thinking of, and I know you're thinking of it right now in your mind, and you're holding it so close to your heart right now at this moment, this dream will require the highest version of yourself. A version you still haven't met, and a version you still don't even know exists of yourself. But the good thing is that it's in you. You just have to find it. So that is all for today. Before the end of this episode, I want to bring the play of the week. And today, to honor my country, where I come from, I wanted to bring Fuenteovejuna by Lope de Vega. This play has been translated in English many times. It's a really famous play in Spain. It was written in 1619. So it's a classic. Now, why am I bringing this? No, it's not just to honor my country and to put my selfish input into this. No. I'm bringing this because this is an amazing play for monologues, both male and female, classic monologues that are not that done because it's a Spanish play and a Spanish playwright. Now, people do Shakespeare all the time. People even do Molière, even if it's foreign. But not too many people do Lope de Vega. So if you want to find something different, incredible quality, even if you're not finding monologues, you should read this play. It's amazing. But if you want to find something different for your classic repertoire, definitely look into Lope de Vega. Not just Fuenteovejuna, but also he has other plays that are great, comedies, dramas. Fuenteovejuna has incredible dramatic monologues, especially for female, really, really strong characters. So this will be all for this week. I kept it really short this week because the next one is going to be probably very long because, drumroll please, we have the first guest in the Actors Vow. I'm so excited. I mean, I don't want to say anything. It's going to be a surprise, but it's going to be so good. You guys are going to love it. It's a very special person in my life, someone I really admired, one of the people who I've learned almost everything I know from. And you'll just love her and you'll learn so much from everything she has to say. So if you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear all the others and all the amazing episodes to come, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes. And again, if you can leave a review or 5 stars, I'll love you forever. And I'll send you all my love and gratitude from Los Angeles. I read all the reviews personally. And if you have any comment or question, you can also feel free to DM me on Instagram or send me an email at hello@theactorsvow.com. Don't forget to follow The Actors Vow on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all at The Actors Vow. Thank you so much for joining me another week. You guys are amazing, and I'll see you next Wednesday.